The Masked Group. It was a cool April night at Rowan University, nestled in the quiet suburban town of Glassboro, New Jersey, where tree-lined streets and red brick houses created an air of timeless calm. The campus, with its lush green lawns and low-rise dormitories, always felt safe and welcoming. I had been living here for nearly 2 years, long enough to feel like I belonged, but not quite long enough to shed the naivety of a sophomore. That night, the air buzzed with the excitement of Holly Bash, the university's biggest spring festival, an event no Rowan student could miss. Holly Bash was a true celebration. The Holly Bush Green, right beside the historic Holly Bush Mansion, transformed into a vibrant outdoor stage, alive with carnival rides, food stalls selling burgers and ice cream, games like ring toss and sack races, and a concert featuring a surprise guest artist. Music blared from massive speakers. The laughter and chatter of hundreds of students mingled with the smell of grilled meat and the screech of spinning rides. I had spent the entire day there, moving from one booth to another, snapping photos with friends, and soaking in the freedom of a day unburdened by assignments or exams. As night fell, I joined a few friends, Jake, Sarah, and a couple of others, to keep the fun going at Jake's dorm on the edge of campus. We crammed into his small room, playing cards, sipping a few cans of beer, and sharing stories about the day's funniest moments. Jake, with his messy curly hair and infectious grin, always knew how to keep the mood lively. Sarah teased me relentlessly for losing 3 card games in a row, sending the group into fits of laughter. That night, everything felt perfect, as if the world revolved around those carefree moments. But around 2 in the morning, as my eyelids grew heavy, I decided it was time to head back to my room in Chestnut Hall, about a 10-minute walk away. "You sure?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with concern. "It's pretty late. Want me to walk with you?" I shook my head, giving a small smile. "I'm fine. Glassboro's safe, and it's just a short walk." I put on my earbuds, played a soft indie song, and stepped out of Jake's dorm, unaware that this night would become one of the most terrifying memories of my life. Glassboro at night had a serene beauty. The streetlights cast a soft golden glow, illuminating the swaying trees. The hum of crickets blended with the sound of my footsteps on the sidewalk. I pulled up my hoodie, feeling the crisp spring air. The campus was nearly deserted, with only the occasional student strolling or biking back to their dorm. I didn't think much of it, focused only on getting to my bed for a good night's sleep. What I didn't know was that earlier that night, around midnight, something strange had happened on campus. A group of about 10 people, all wearing masks, had been spotted around the dorms. They rode bikes, banged on doors, and shouted incomprehensible things. Some students had posted about it on social media, warning others about the masked group causing trouble. But I hadn't checked my phone or seen those posts. To me, it was just another night after the festival, and all I wanted was to get back to my room. When I reached Chestnut Hall, I swiped my keycard to unlock the heavy glass door to the main lobby. The electronic lock clicked, and I stepped inside. The air was still, filled only with the low hum of the air conditioner and the faint flicker of fluorescent lights. I headed straight for the stairs to my third-floor room, but as my eyes glanced toward the common lounge area, a small corner with a few worn armchairs and a wall-mounted TV, I froze. A figure sat in the farthest armchair. He wore a black hoodie, his head bowed, but what stopped me cold was the black ski mask covering his face. It wasn't a medical mask or a playful costume you'd see at a Halloween party. This was a thick, full-face mask with only 2 small holes for eyes, and I couldn't make out the gaze behind them. He didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there like a living statue. I stood rooted to the spot, my hand clutching the keycard. For a moment, I wondered if I was seeing things. Who would wear a ski mask in a dorm at 2:30 in the morning? Maybe it was a prank, some drunk student trying to get attention after the festival. But something about his silence sent a chill down my spine. I tried to act normal, taking slow steps toward the stairs, but my eyes couldn't leave him. Then, in a flash, he sprang from the chair, turning to face me. My heart pounded, threatening to burst from my chest. I didn't think. My legs moved on their own. I bolted down the hallway, shoving open the nearest bathroom door, locking it behind me, and pressing myself against the wall, my breath ragged. The sound of my heartbeat drowned everything else. I waited, hoping to hear footsteps leaving, but the hallway outside was eerily silent. I stood there, maybe 5 minutes, maybe longer, trying to calm myself. Each second felt like an hour, and I couldn't stop imagining the bathroom door bursting open with the masked figure there. Story 1. The Shadow in the House. That summer, I had just turned 17. It was a peaceful summer, or at least, that's what I thought at the time. I was still living in my childhood home, a 2-story house on the edge of a quiet suburban neighborhood. The clean asphalt roads, the rows of shady oak trees, and the houses with neatly trimmed front lawns painted a perfect picture of safety. But that calm exterior, I soon realized, was merely a veneer hiding the strange things that could happen at any moment. My parents were creatures of habit. They rarely left the house, always busy cleaning, fixing things, or simply enjoying the comfort of the home they had spent their lives building. I couldn't recall the last time they had gone anywhere together without me. So, when they announced they were going away for the weekend to a coastal town a few hours' drive away, I could hardly believe my ears. They left on Friday morning, leaving me with an empty house and a rare sense of freedom. I, a 17-year-old boy with a budding streak of rebellion, immediately thought of seizing the opportunity. MJ, my girlfriend at the time, was the first person I called. MJ was nothing like me. While I was the type to follow rules, rarely doing anything too reckless, MJ carried an explosive energy, a touch of wildness that was hard to resist. She had bright, sparkling eyes and a smile that always made everything seem more exciting. "I'm coming over tonight, okay?" she said over the phone, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. I agreed without much thought, though somewhere deep down, I knew that with MJ, things rarely went according to plan. That evening, MJ arrived with a small backpack stuffed with snacks and a large bottle of soda. We sprawled out on the living room sofa, watching an old horror movie on TV. The house was strangely quiet, with only the hum of the ceiling fan and MJ's giggles as she teased me for jumping at a scene in the movie. But when her eyes drifted to the large window overlooking the backyard, where the pool glowed with soft, shimmering light, I knew what she was thinking. "Hey," MJ said, her voice full of mischief, "we should go skinny dipping." I nearly choked on my drink. "Are you kidding? The neighbors will see," I protested. But MJ just laughed, the kind of laugh that told me I wasn't going to win this argument. "Who cares? Your neighbors are old. They're probably all asleep. Besides, you'll never get a chance like this again." She winked, and I knew I was done for. I had never done anything so reckless. For all 17 years of my life, I had been the good kid, the son my parents never had to worry about. But MJ had a way of making everything seem enticing, as if the boundaries I set for myself were flimsy barriers, easily broken. After a few minutes of half-joking, half-serious arguing, I gave in. We turned off the house lights to avoid drawing attention, leaving only the pool's glow to illuminate the scene, creating a surreal, dreamlike atmosphere. The pool was right next to the large living room window, a wide pane of glass that looked straight out to the backyard. The water was warm, contrasting with the cool summer night air. We laughed and splashed each other, and in that moment, everything felt perfect. MJ floated on the water, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders, her eyes sparkling under the pool lights. I felt a bit shy, but I couldn't deny that this was one of the most beautiful moments I had ever experienced. But that feeling didn't last long. While MJ was telling some story, I don't remember exactly, maybe about a quirky teacher at school, my eyes happened to glance at the large window, and then I froze. On the far wall of the living room, a faint but distinct shadow was moving. It wasn't a streak of light or a reflection from the pool. The shadow had the shape of a person, and it was gliding across, as if someone was walking through the house. My heart pounded. I tried to stay calm, not wanting to scare MJ. "We need to get out of the pool," I whispered, my voice hoarse. MJ looked at me, her eyes wide, but she didn't ask questions. Maybe she sensed the tension in my voice. We scrambled out of the pool, grabbing towels to dry off clumsily. "Go to the pool house, turn off the light, and don't make a sound," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. MJ nodded, her usual playfulness gone, replaced by a tense silence. She quietly slipped into the small pool house nearby and closed the door. I stood alone by the pool, feeling a chill despite the warm summer air. The house, where I had grown up, suddenly felt foreign, as if it was hiding a secret I had never known. I took a deep breath, opened the back door to the kitchen, and moved as quietly as I could. In my hand was a kitchen knife, its steel blade cold against my palm. I wasn't sure what I would do with it, but holding it made me feel less shaky. Stepping into the kitchen, I flicked on the light. The soft yellow glow filled the room, but it didn't make me safer. I began checking every corner of the house, starting with the ground floor. Everything seemed normal at first, but then I noticed the theft at the party. That summer, I was 20 years old, caught in a tumultuous relationship with Amanda. We had been dating for over a year, and though I loved her, or at least I thought I did, our relationship was like a roller coaster, filled with exhilarating highs and unavoidable conflicts. Amanda was a striking girl, with golden blonde hair, a radiant smile, and a confidence that made everyone in the room turn to look at her. But she also had another side, a recklessness, a touch of arrogance, and a habit that made me question whether she truly valued me. I lived in an affluent suburb on the outskirts of Philadelphia, where three-story homes with meticulously trimmed lawns and expensive cars parked out front were a familiar sight. Amanda's house sat at the heart of this neighborhood, a grand mansion with white columns, large glass windows, and a backyard spacious enough to host a gala. Her family was wealthy, not the ostentatious kind, but a discreet wealth, evident in the antique furniture and art paintings adorning the walls. Oddly though, her family was rarely home. Amanda's parents were often away on business trips, leaving her alone in that vast house, which seemed to shape her carefree attitude. That summer, Amanda worked as a counselor at a summer camp in the city, about a 25-minute drive from our neighborhood. I didn't understand why she chose this job. With ambitions of becoming a lawyer or financer, being a camp counselor seemed out of character. But Amanda loved the freedom the job offered, and she had a knack for turning everything into an adventure. When the camp season ended, the counselors decided to throw a party to celebrate, and Amanda's house, with its expansive space and stunning pool, was the obvious choice. I wasn't a party person. I preferred quiet evenings, watching movies, or playing cards with close friends. But Amanda was different. She thrived on lively moments, when people gathered, music blared, and she was the center of attention. I agreed to go to the party, partly because I wanted to be with her, partly because I didn't want to seem like a controlling boyfriend. But from the start, I had a gut feeling that the night wouldn't go smoothly. The party kicked off on Saturday afternoon, with the sun still hanging in the sky. Amanda's backyard quickly filled with people. Camp counselors, their friends, and even some strangers I'd never met gathered around the pool, on the lawn, and in the sprawling living room. Music blasted from a Bluetooth speaker system, and the air was thick with the smell of beer, pizza, and cigarette smoke. Amanda, in a short white dress and glittering sandals, moved from group to group, laughing and making everyone feel welcome. I stood in a corner, holding a soda bottle, trying to blend in, but feeling out of place. Then I met Pete. He walked into the party with the confidence of someone who knew all eyes would be on him. Tall, with short brown hair and a smug smile, Pete was the kind of guy you both wanted to hate and befriend. He shook my hand, exchanged a few pleasantries, but his eyes quickly shifted to Amanda. That's when I saw the problem. Pete wasn't just talking to her, he was flirting, openly and without hesitation. He stood too close, laughed too loudly, and touched her arm more than necessary. Amanda, instead of keeping her distance, responded with smiles and playful banter as if she was enjoying the attention. I felt my blood boil. Amanda and I had argued about this before. She had a habit of being overly friendly with other guys, and though I tried not to seem jealous, it was always a sore point in our relationship. I didn't want to make a scene in front of everyone, so instead of confronting Pete directly, I devised another plan. I started approaching him, acting friendly. "Hey Pete, have another," I grinned, handing him a fresh beer whenever his cup was empty. We talked about football, summer camp, anything to keep him drinking. I wasn't the strongest guy, but with Irish and Mexican blood, I could hold my liquor. My plan was simple: get Pete drunk, let him embarrass himself or pass out, and the problem would solve itself. The plan worked better than I expected. By midnight, Pete was wasted, sprawled on a sofa in the basement, snoring loudly and drooling onto a pillow. I felt a twinge of satisfaction, but Amanda quickly caught on to my scheme. "What are you doing?" she hissed, pulling me aside, her voice sharp with anger. "You got him drunk on purpose, didn't you?" I denied it, but her eyes told me she wasn't buying it. After a brief argument, I admitted I'd slightly meddled. Amanda shook her head, saying I was acting like a child, but she didn't press the issue further. Still, I felt the tension between us grow, and the party's joy began to fade. As the party grew louder, I felt suffocated. The music was too loud, the laughter echoed, and the smell of smoke irritated me. I decided to step outside for some fresh air. I walked out to the front yard where the air was cool and quiet. Leaning against Amanda's car, I looked up at the starry sky, trying to shake off the unease. That's when I noticed a figure standing at the edge of the yard, near the wooden fence separating it from the neighbor's property. The figure stood motionless, faintly lit by the streetlight.